Hello, and welcome back to today's special where I'm going to be ranking the 7 episodes from season 2 of The Last of Us. What a phenomenal season 2 has been. It has been truly amazing. I have loved the whole journey, most of it. 2 episodes, little bit of gripey with, but other than that, I loved it. As a whole, I feel like this season is so much stronger and more powerful and better than what season 1 was. However, is this just because I haven't played the second game and I am completely oblivious to how much story time has actually passed in terms of game time? One of my criticisms I felt with season 1 was everything was going by way too fast, as I know how much story was missing from season 1 compared to how much there was in the first game. So, bonus for this season is I'm completely oblivious to what's happened in the game. As it stands, where we've just finished with season 2, I have no idea whereabouts in the game we finished. I don't know if we're halfway through the game. I don't know if we're a quarter way through the game. I don't know if we're 1/3 of the way through the game. Either way, I can't wait to see season 3 when that kicks off. And I am dreading the year waits. So I'm with all you guys this time now, having to wait a whole year just to find out what happened at the end of this finale. Where did Abby shoot Ellie? And before I dive into my episode rankings, here's sort of my minor predictions for what's going to happen in season 3 based on not having played the game. Season 3 is going to kick off from where it left off with Abby's perspective on day 1. I was wondering what that day 1 reference was when we got to Seattle, and obviously that day 1 reference is tying up the pieces to who's doing what on which day. So obviously we got to the end of day 3 with Ellie's journey. Season 3 is going to kick off with Abby's journey on day 1, maybe what she gets up to on day 2, and it's most certainly going to wrap up onto day 3, where we find out what Abby was doing on the events leading up to day 3. So, or come episode 2 or maybe episode 3, we will be tying up to how the season left off. Because I'm predicting Abby's probably shot Ellie in some capacity, also paired up with the fact that a work colleague told me that you also play as Abby, which sort of makes sense with the whole day 1 reference thing, I'm getting the impression that you lead up to that big scene where it ended off. Something happens with Abby and Ellie and Tommy and Dina. I'm thinking Ellie got shot in some capacity. Ellie's probably going to need some downtime, which means from that scene onwards, you're still probably going to be playing as Abby in the game, which means after we see what happened with Ellie, season 3 is going to continue following Abby's story, and to at a later date, this is where whoever's left from this scene where the season finale ended will be going off on their own mission to get revenge for Jesse, Joel, and whatever else happens will be returned to the scene. That's how I'm predicting it, is like season 3 is going to probably be mostly Abby's season. And maybe season 4 is where we go back to Ellie and Tommy and Dina, I guess. So that's what my loose predictions are going to be. If I get around to playing the games before season 3 comes out, bonus. If I am in a good position to play the first game again before season 3, I'm definitely going to be doing that. I am still currently torn on whether I should dive into the second game at some point between now and season 3, or wait until the show has finally finished with the second game to actually be able to play through the game and see what it's like actually playing the game after the story has been finished being told on the television. Anyway, let's get into my episode rankings. So, coming in at 7th place, I put episode 3, which is the shocking and devastating aftermath of witnessing Joel's brutal murder. I was in so much shock and had so many different emotions going through that it just all hit me late from what happened at the end of episode 2, all my sadness and sorrow. I definitely felt the emotional weight of the episode after Joel's unfortunate death. It's not to say that this was a bad episode. I enjoyed it. I do remember a few work colleagues criticising this episode, but I enjoyed it myself quite thoroughly. I definitely would rank this a lot higher up than some of my season 1 episodes, is probably the better way to put it. My experience of watching season 2 is definitely significantly a lot greater than my watch of season 1. So all these episodes I thought were amazing and I loved them. It's just something's got to start last. Now, coming in at 6th place, we have the season finale, episode 7, where Ellie and Jesse go off on their mission to try and find Tommy before they end up splitting up for Ellie to go off on her own revenge mission to chase down Abby. Now, a bit of criticism on this episode, as I feel like this was the first episode where I feel like I noticed the TV show probably skipped over something that was in the game, and that is when Ellie took the boat trip to get to the aquarium with the Ferris wheel, and it ended up on that island so far across the sea that it's like, how did she even get there to start off with? And B, what was the even point of even showing that? They could have just completely cut that out and no one would have even known that happened. They could have just had her go across the choppy water and get to the aquarium. That whole scene just felt pointless, and a complete waste of time, unless they're saving that for like a flashback episode with Ellie in season 3. That's the only thing I can think of that might happen, is that we get to see what happened on that island in season 3, maybe. Otherwise, it just feels like, what was the point of even going over there? So that is the only time I feel like we've actually missed something from the game. Other than that, this episode was quite strong. You saw Ellie break into the Ferris ground, and the emotional and heartbreak she had to go through when she realised she shot a pregnant woman. And then moments later, Tommy and Jesse showing up to pull her away from that scene. Considering how they showed up, and you could still she's still mourning over killing a pregnant woman. It also them showing up like they did also kind of suggests maybe more happened on that island than we're getting to see at this time. So maybe there is something that happened on that island. Fast forward back to the theatre. Abby found him somehow, so she must have followed him, which is the only thing I can think of, as she did appear to be on her own. Jessie, oh my god, instantly down by a shot, which is such a shame, and leaving us on this terrible, frustrating cliffhanger of like, what the fuck just happened? Now we got to wait through however many episodes of Abby in season 3 before we get to see what happened. Well, all you guys that played the game know what happened. I've got to wait the long way. Another good point I did like about this episode is how Jessie was able to figure out that Dina was pregnant. Downside, Dina never got to tell him, which is also quite heartbreaking at the same time. Coming in at 5th place, we have episode 2. In each in their own ways, every single episode from this point onwards was just absolutely epic. So we had a lot going on in this episode. Joel rescues Abby without realising she's there to kill him. He's brutally beaten to death, whilst all at the same time, we have a huge herd attack the town. And we get to see Tommy have a badass moment by taking out the very first bloater on screen. Well done, Tommy. Obviously, this episode came to a brutal ending where I was left in shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I came into the season thinking, I'm going to get a whole nother season of Joe and Ellie. I didn't realise he was going to be robbed of us. Episode 2. I think that's the only reason that holds this episode so low down. Even though it was a brilliant, solid episode, it's just the fact that it was so heartbreaking how it ended and cut my expectations of what I was hoping for the season short. Now, coming in at 4th place, we have our very first Night Stalker. This was so overdue. These were terrifying in the first game. I absolutely feared them. I hated them. They scared the crap out of me so many times whilst I was playing the first game. And, I mean, what the hell happened? I mean, were they scared that the show wasn't going to perform well when they released the first season? As it was like, I just felt the whole first season was just so cut short in comparison. I missed out on so much stuff, like Spores, which I'll get to later. But the Night Stalkers, they were terrifying. How could we miss out on those? And the only thing that I'm trying to give it a saving grace for is I'm trying to, in my head, look at it as them trying to do it as Cordyceps slowly evolving over time, which does beg the question, did we get anything new for the second game? Is there anything that we've missed out in the second game? Like any new zombies that we should be getting that we haven't got, for example. But seeing the Night Stalkers for the very first time was such a highlight, and it was terrifying. I still don't know what I found more terrifying, the clickers from this first season or the Night Stalkers from this season. But all in all, this season was shorter, and I definitely had a lot less jump scares in this season in comparison. But either way, I feel like this was such a strong and amazing episode to open up with. It was amazing. I loved it. So much was going on. It had me going like, what the fuck's going on with Joe and Ellie? I was dying to find out what happened with Joe and Ellie. Nowhere is this teenage girl drama. It's like, what the hell's happened? And I'm trying to figure it out in my head. What could it be? And like wondering if he told her or something else happened. Also, we later find out it's a combination of things. Mostly him lying, but even still, such a great opening episode. Now coming into the top 3. Now in my third place I have episode 4. So we finally reach Seattle. They set up base in like a little music shop with a horse, and they go and pursue the Wolfies. Now, when they stumble across the first little Wolfie base, I don't know if it was a base or an outpost or whatever, they find out that the Wolfies have been brutally massacred by these Scarfaces. And whilst they were in this output, they found a group of Wolfies had come back, and now they're in a bit of a pickle. They narrowly escape the Wolfies to find themselves in a subway. Finally, our first subway. These scenes were terrifying in the first game. Again and again, this was such a terrifying moment. I jumped a couple times in this episode, and I just loved the fact that we finally got a scary, dark subway scene. Now, coming in at second place is probably one of the most jam-packed, epic episodes yet. Unfortunately, I had a couple of little audio issues with that episode, but thankfully, I think I got it mostly fixed to an okay standard, so I hope you guys can forgive me for the audio issues, and hopefully it wasn't too bad. But what an episode. We get the lot, we get Night Stalkers, which were absolutely terrifying in that episode. We get a Wolfie chase scene. Then they all get wrapped up in a jungle scene with the Scarfaces, and now Ellie's being hunted. She gives them the slip. Obviously, she's now on her own, but she manages to infiltrate the hospital and take out the first Wolfie that was involved in Joel's murder with chasing her into the spores for the very first time. Wow, we get spores. Loved them. I love how they just didn't throw it in there as like, oh, spores are a thing now. They sort of made it look like, oh, this is a new thing with the start of the episode, hinting and alluding to spores as if it's like a new thing. They're surprised about it. And when we finally get to see the spores, I like how they've done it. So it's like the human bodies are producing the spores. It's not a case of the spores are just coming out of the fungus itself. The fungus is using the humans to breathe out the spores. So I like how they've incorporated it as a new evolution of cordyceps, but not so much in the sense of it's just been thrown in there like they could have done. So I'm thankful for the different take. Obviously, if they just throw it in from the start, it would have been brilliant for everyone that's played the game and watching the season for the first time. But as a late entry, I think they did a really good backtrack on showing it as like a new evolution of cordyceps. So I do appreciate the thought they put into it, like having cordyceps being breathed out by the humans. Whilst on the subject of spores, how are the spores going to work in the TV show if people do start wearing masks to go through the spores, or Ellie walks through the spores and then comes out covered in basically spores? How's that going to play into the TV show, I wonder? So I'm quite curious to see how they're going to approach that, should another situation arise where that needs to be explained, because just because you walk through spores and then walk out of them doesn't mean you're spore free. You're going to have spores all over you. So just a bit of a question that I thought I throw out there. Now, coming in at first place is episode 6. I absolutely love the trip and journey back down memory lane with Joel. Getting to see Joel again after 4 episodes of him being dead was amazing. I loved every moment I had of Joel and Ellie on screen having their father-daughter relationships. I loved all the little things they were doing. I loved all of that. And then I even loved the cherry on the top is we see what happened with them falling out. It wasn't the case of Joel told Ellie that what happened. She figured it out for herself, which I like even better, as he had this very same face that he did when he told Ellie he promised her about what he said about the Fireflies at the end of season 1, as he did when he promised about not killing the therapist's husband. I love the fact that they did that. It gives so much more explanation to why she's so angry. It's not just a case of he killed the therapist's husband. He betrayed her twice. He just outright lied to her face, and she was heartbroken and hurt and filled with so much hatred and anger that he had just been lying to her the whole time. And then fast forward again to the party night, New Year's Eve, was it? They actually had a heart-to-heart talk, and I just loved how much where Ellie was saying she doesn't know if she could forgive him, but she'd like to try after he had just told her the truth about everything. Just adds so much more weight to why she wants her revenge against Abby, because they made their peace, they made their amendments. It's not like he got killed on angry terms. It's not like the last conversation they had was now, I don't need your fucking help. The last conversation they had was Ellie saying, I want to try and forgive you. I really want Ellie to get her revenge, and I don't want to say the end of season 3, as with no current plans of a third game, and I'm really hoping that we get 2 more seasons out of this game. So I am hoping if not by the end of the third season, if they do a fourth season, by the end of the fourth season, Ellie can get her revenge that is much needed. Now, I am hoping that Ellie just gets her revenge on Abby the way Abby should have done it to Joel, and that as a bullet, just one quick bullet and over and done with. Beating Joel up the way she did was completely uncalled for, regardless of how much of a dick move Joel did, which was shoot an unarmed doctor. Even if he did have a knife in his hand, which I can't recall if he did or not, he still just shot a doctor. It was over and done with. He should, as much of it was a dick move, it was just a bullet. Joel should have just got a bullet too. I could have probably forgiven Abby a bit more if it was just a shotgun in the legs than a bullet to the head, because he needed to be safe to talk to, because obviously he took out a whole army of fireflies basically, so he was a dangerous person. So anyway, this was my ranking list of The Last of Us season 2. I'm really curious to see what you guys would rank in terms of episodes. Was there any episodes you absolutely hated? Was there anything you absolutely hated about the show? And please be a bit mindful of what you spoil in terms of the game. I would like to experience the game as a first time too, so please don't spoil too much for me. Just try and be vague about the game, but be precise on what you don't like about the TV show is probably the better way of doing it. But I am really curious to see what you guys have to say in the comments below. And for my next week's Wednesday slot, I'll be diving into Stranger Things. So, until next time, I'll see you guys then. Bye for now.